Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Balance and Empathy Show. We are live from the Netherlands, Portugal, Canada, and Australia. Introducing to you Mr. Ashok from Canada, the founder of the Empathy Clinic, Ms. Rena Strill, Global Balance Coach. And today we have another very special guest, Mr. Carlos Sentis, and he is the founder of the World Inner Vision Alliance. And I would like to give a moment to Carlos to introduce himself a little bit. So, Carlos, over to you.
Well, thank you so much. It is a great pleasure to be here with you and with your amazing audience. I am thrilled to participate in this conversation, and I will be very brief. I'm just the founder of the World Innovation Alliance, which is a private organization that works on social impact projects and impact innovation. And I'm also in the board of the World Humanitarian Forum and in the Organization of Young Entrepreneurs of the European Union.
Wow, that's amazing. We are so honored to have you with us today. Now, today's topic is about resilience. So we're going to dive right into this topic in a moment. So for all the people who are watching, and I'm seeing the comments already coming in. Hello from Zambia. Hello from India. We have viewers from all over the world. So if you're watching, let us know, where are you watching us from? Which country? Because we are very curious where our viewers are based. So when I think about the topic of resilience, I did a little bit of research and came across the definition of resilience. And the definition is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Now, I think recovering quickly, I think during life, we grow our resilience, right? We never start out with recovering quickly from difficulties. That takes time, that takes some maturing to do. But I would love to know your take on this. Rena, what do you think about the definition of resilience? Do you resonate with that?
Absolutely. And for me, what really resonates is the ability to be tough and to get back up again, get back on your feet and really plow forward. And Nelson Mandela's quote, where he says, "Don't judge me by my success, but judge me by the amount of times that I've fallen down, I've actually got back up again." And that's why this quote is just amazing, because it actually clarifies everything that you've just said, Peter, in relation to that definition.
Wonderful, Rena, and I couldn't agree more. And I came across that quote from Nelson Mandela too, and it's so true, right? You can tell so much from a person, from the things he or she went through throughout life. And I think especially when we look back over this past year, global pandemic, I think many people have shown very strong resilience. Ashok, over to you. What have you noticed from this in your work as a psychiatrist and working with helping people?
Well, I want to have a go at the definition as well, and that we need to differentiate organic and inorganic resilience. So if we're on an elevator and it starts to buzz because there's too many people there, the elevator can't get more resilient because it's not an organic thing. So with an organic thing, we can grow our resilience. We become more resilient. So imagine an elevator that every time instead of buzzing, it gets stronger and stronger. And that's the beautiful thing about resilience, is that we have a certain innate amount of resilience, and then can we add to it? And interestingly, what adds to resilience is stress. And so we've all been in a similar stress environment, this pandemic. So it's my hope that on a global scale, we can learn to become more resilient as a community because of the shared stress that we've experienced. I'll leave it there for now.
That's really interesting. We need stress to become resilient. Who would say you need stress for anything, right? So that is very interesting. Carlos, would you like to take a shot with the definition? What do you think? The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. What's your experience with this?
Well, I think your contributions are really useful, and I totally agree with them. There's different perspectives. I rather think of it in a very practical way. I think we all need to have a clear capacity of resisting problems, setbacks, disappointments, and obviously all the inevitable challenges that we deal with in our lives. It is impossible to control your environment, but you can definitely try to control your thoughts, your words, your actions. And if you are able to control your behavior in a way that benefits you, that allows you to go from where you are at to a better place, if you're able to provide value to people around you in moments of stress and crisis and difficulty, I think you're always going to have a compass that allows you to navigate through all the difficulties in life.
So I think we've, Tisha, the technology's just frozen for a moment. But, you know, that's a key point that you raised there, Carlos. Having that compass to really navigate through all your difficulties in life. What are some of the things that you've had to implement in your life through the challenges that you've been through?
Well, the first thing is that we all go through a lot of incredibly difficult situations. And I think that even if you are lucky enough to be healthy and to have prosperity in your life, you still face with health issues and with family losses and with all kinds of problems in your lifetime. So I have been trying to prepare myself for all kinds of crises that have not happened yet, but also I always try to look for what is positive. I try to be grateful. I try to appreciate the things that I do have, because it is very easy to take things for granted. And what I do, and I recommend everybody to do as well, is to write. I think writing helps you appreciate things. So for example, I write every single day why today has been a great day. What did I learn today? What difficulty did I face? And I am proud of the way that I dealt with, even if I was not enjoying that moment. What sacrifices did I do today that may benefit me in the future? And obviously, what is it that I can do to deal with the problems that I have? For example, you can maybe lose your job, but still you have your experience, you have your skills, you have your network, you have time ahead of you. You may even have some subsidy that allows you to overcome a difficult period of time until you figure out the next step. So I always think, what do I have? What resources, what skills, what is it that is in my power to actually move forward, knowing that it is inevitable. I lost my father due to pancreatic cancer 3 years ago, and he was my best friend. He was my mentor. He was my partner. I spoke with him 4 hours every single day. And not having him is an incredible challenge, because there is, it feels like if I don't have I would say a foundation, right? So it's like whatever I do feels like it's not enough, and I feel that it's always difficult to deal with some things when it was easy before. And obviously, when we face losses, we miss those people, and there's so much that they would have helped us to feel better and feel complete. And so what I try to think is, first of all, that it is impossible to have a perfect life or to be perfect, that it is impossible to avoid problems, but the braver we become, the more we write, the more we analyze, the more we think of creative ways that can help us to deal with the problems that we may have, the better position we're going to be to face the demons and the monsters and the problems that we're going to have to defeat in the game of life.
I just want to add to what Carlos is saying, because he said so many wonderful points, especially the idea of writing. And we have to differentiate confidence from self-esteem. Confidence is the capacity to believe in a positive outcome about something in the future. So when Carlos was describing that when a future event is about to happen, we may not be sure how we're going to handle it. And if we have confidence, we can also have hope that we're going to be able to handle it well. And if you write it down, that confidence can become self-esteem, which is all of the accumulation of things that you've succeeded and experienced and done well in. So by increasing your self-esteem, you can actually increase your confidence as well. So that means you can increase your resilience, because resilience is knowing and having the hope of knowing that you can cope with something even if it's taken you down.
100%. I would just add one thing.
I definitely agree with that. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm having a little bit of problems with the connection, so I hope I'm audible okay. So I really liked, Carlos, what you were saying about writing. I think that really could help people really realizing what's going on and writing off their feelings, and also like putting it out on paper makes it visible, you know, so that helps. And I think also what helps for me always is what we all go through difficult things in life. And what helps me is just the thought of knowing this will pass too. Whenever you're going through something that's difficult, I always know it's temporary and it will come to an end. So if it's a phase that you're going through, if it's a difficulty you're going through, realize it's temporary, which really helps me to cope with difficulties.
That's a key point you make, Tisha.
Do you have some tips in dealing, you know, how to become more resilient or in dealing with difficulties that help you? Rena.
Yes, Tisha, absolutely. I'd just like to draw on a comment by Dickie and Doge, where he says, you know, embracing the reality by following natural laws. And just picking up on that key point.
I'm not hearing you that well.
When you talk about, you know, your actions and your behaviours. Tisha, can you hear us? So, Carlos, you know, that was a really key point that you made in relation to your actions and behaviours. And I think what also is really important is the self-care. So being able to ensure that your mind, that negativity that's going on, as you talked about, being able to manage things. There's some things that are out of your control, but just being able to manage those things that you can, that you are controlling, writing it all down, when you do that, and also helping the people around you maintain that positive attitude, because it's so important. Ashok?
Yeah, I think the sense of having control of your life, and as Carlos said, that we actually don't have control of our life. We like to think we do. I mean, the human condition is that when we're born, by the time we're about 3 years of age, we're in totally control of our universe. And then after that point, we realize how little we are, unless we have a narcissistic problem. So resilience is recognizing the balance between what you can control and what you cannot control. And what you ultimately can control is your own attitude. And resilience has a lot to do with attitude. Even if you're facing a terrible situation, if your attitude is one of optimism and one of hope, then you can actually believe that that's what I can control. I can control my attitude, even if the situation around you is very difficult. And we've seen a lot of that variability in that attitude during the pandemic as well.
That's very true, Ashok. You know, people often they freak out or stress about things that are not in their control. But it's really a waste of your energy if you realize some things will never be in your control. You know, like for instance, the way that other people react. It's not in your control, it's in their control. So you can really stress out about that. But you can also realize, you know, focus on the things you can control and have peace with that too. Because if you realize you're not in control of that other person's behavior, for me at least, it gives me peace knowing that, okay, I can control my reaction and this is in my control, and I can choose in what situation I react, you know, in what way. And that helps me very often. We have some comments coming in, especially from Panda Sarika. Panda, thank you for all your beautiful, valuable comments. Really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. If any of the viewers have any questions about resilience, or maybe a situation that you want to ask about how to deal with and how to become more resilient, please put your question in the chat and we will do our best to answer your question with the knowledge that we have. So Panda is also saying we have understood preparedness somehow protect us from misfortune. And I think that's very true. And we have Emily watching. Is this your daughter, Ashok? Hi, Emily. Thank you for watching. I understand. I heard you are based in Italy. It's so lovely that you're watching. So thank you so much. And she says, absolutely, attitude is everything. Well, I think she had a perfect role model in that one, didn't she, Ashok?
I wouldn't say perfect. I'm still working on it.
Okay. It's so wonderful that she's watching. But, speaking of that, you also are a father of children. You are a psychiatrist. As a parent, what can we do for our children to teach them about resilience? What would be your advice?
Well, my advice is you can use a couple of analogies, but one of the easiest analogy is with money. And children understand money very, very early because they get maybe some pocket money when they go to school. And if you give them, let's just make up a number like 10 units, I could say 10 euros, for example, and you say, this is your 10 euros for the week. At the end of the week, you need to have at least maybe 3, maybe 2 euros left over, and that's your savings. And when you have savings, over time, you might need that money to deal with an emergency. And if you have some money to deal with that emergency, then you'll be prepared. So if there's one child who might spend all of their money and then they reach a problem where they need something, they won't have financial resilience at all because they won't have anything to pay for what they need. If they can save a little bit and build up that strength in that account of resilience, then they can prepare for that. So yeah, a young child will understand that very well, especially if at the end of the week they can buy a reward with those two or 3 euros that they were able to save.
Well, that's very interesting advice, and absolutely, and I think that is also something that I think needs to be taught more in schools. I don't think we spend enough attention on those topics, so that really needs to be increased because not all parents, know about how to teach this to their children. So that's very valuable advice. Thank you. We have a question or comment coming in from Deepayan Ghosh saying, resilience is needed for eradicating narcissism. Please need your views. Ashok, yes, sorry to bother you again with a comment, but could you take this one?
Well, I think if you understand narcissism the way I do, it's actually a defense against insecurity. So the most narcissistic people are completely insecure on the inside, and they create a character on the outside that appears to be capable. If you think about it, that's not resilient at all, because they're not really working on a truth, which is their weakness on the inside. They're working on a falsity. So when that falsity collapses, that person who's narcissistic doesn't have any capacities. And I suppose the best example we have that will be Hitler at the end of the Second World War. He was losing, he couldn't handle it, and he wasn't able to face life anymore. If he had some resilience, he might have said, okay, I lost, but I have lots of leadership skills that have some value, even though I use them for a terrible purpose. Then he might have been able to at least look at himself and maybe change his character a little bit. This is the tragedy. Is that being a narcissistic person doesn't mean that you don't have capabilities and abilities, but they can't tolerate criticism. So it's about the capacity to tolerate the truth about your value.
Well, that's so interesting. I never looked at it that way. We have a comment coming in from Wahiba Leonard. He says, agreed, my son was taught from a young age to use money wisely and to save. And with this principle taught as a young adult of 21 years old now, he has such a great understanding of financial freedom and shifted his perspective on money. So yes, that's what it does then. When you teach your children at a young age, then you see the outcome when they become adults. We had another comment from Emily coming in. She says, what about teaching resilience in later life? Is it possible to learn or practice? What do you think about this, Carlos?
Absolutely. I think we all should consider anything that has to do with skill or with education or with
maybe we're having a bit of connection problems with Carlos. Rina, would you like to comment?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the fact of the matter is that, it's actually resilience. They say it's not actually a trait. It's something that we develop, right, through whatever we're experiencing. So whether it be physical resilience or mental or emotional, or social. It's something that, you know, we learn to develop. So I believe that it is absolutely possible to learn those skills, definitely, based on your environment, based on the type of people that you're associating with. I know, Candice, you said that it's really important that you surround yourself with positive people. So you've got that positive energy, that positive influence, and you've got the confidence that you spoke about, Ashok, to be able to move forward and deal with those tough situations.
Thank you so much, Rena.
Is Carlos back with us yet, or?
I'm sorry?
Is Carlos back with us?
I hope so. I hope so. I'm having some trouble hearing Rena, but I can tell you can hear her. But for me, it's not, I cannot hear her.
Yeah, she's very faint.
Okay. Carlos, are you back with us? Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I think he's frozen, at least on my end. So I hope everything will be okay.
I can hear.
Well, we have another comments coming in. Thank you,
Hello.
Wahiba Leonard.
Hello.
And I really love this comment, by the way. So he says about the educational system, right, in teaching financial resilience. He says, true. And my son asked me, why don't school teach this to children about financial wealth and how to obtain it? And his son did this by self-study, reading books. For instance, the books of Robert Kiyosaki and the book along with many other material, which have taught him so much. So I think that's really good advice for the parents out there. If you want to teach your children about, financial resilience, go through these books with them, have them read those books, self-study, if you really want to teach them about this topic. Because in schools, not every school will teach about this. So very valuable advice. Thank you, Wahiba.
Guys, can you hear me now, please? I just want to make sure.
Then Mushumi Biwas, he says, in some situations, it makes us lost confidence. In this case, how can we get back our confidence? Well, for me, and I think Ashok, you touched on that topic a little bit earlier during the show. How can you get back your confidence? I think growing up is one part of getting confidence. I know, like young people growing up, going through difficulty, it can make them insecure. And then, at least that's my experience, growing up, getting older, you get more life experience. And then also the realization that you are not alone, going through difficulties. Talking with other people about your problems will absolutely make you realize that you are not alone. It will get you the help from some people, and it will also, make you realize that you're not the only one going through this, and that there are probably many solutions to your problems. And for me, that will give me confidence, knowing I'm not alone, knowing there are many ways to deal with this difficult problem, and also the realization that this is just temporary, and things will pass, and then you can leave it behind you, learn from it, and then grow. Do you have anything to add to that, Ashok?
I do. I think just kind of tying a little bit together. If we were learning how to box, we have to learn how to punch, but we also have to learn to take a punch. And a boxer can't be better than their capacity to take a punch. And I think what Carlos was saying earlier, especially about losing his father that he's spoken to for 4 hours every single day. I mean, that's such an amazing connection there. I'd like to hear more about how he's recovering from that, because the capacity to take a punch in life is really what gives us the confidence to get back in the ring of life. Right, Carlos?
Absolutely. Guys, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Finally. I am so sorry for the connection. I apologize. I appreciate a lot your comment. There's a lot I wanted to add. The first thing is regarding the loss of my father. I think everybody has lost someone, and everybody, unfortunately, will lose their lives. And we are going to deal with problems. And the question is that we are many times having a hard time having a positive relation with reality. I think that we need to be willing to face reality. And we are always trying to be protected in our bubbles and censored from violence and censored from other problems. The reality is that things happen. That there's a lot of people in the world that have a worse situation than us. And I think one of the important things as well, not only is gratitude, but also perspective and understanding that even people that are not in the best situation in a developed country are probably in the top 1% of the world in terms of income or well-being, and that you have shelter and so many things to be grateful for, even the capacity of eating whatever you want, and even have entertainment, and even choose career paths. So I think that it is important to recognize that if you lose someone, well, that means that you had someone, that you have had that person for a long time, that you had the luck of having them. And then if you are going to continue living your life, and hopefully you're going to do it in a way that would make them proud and that would make them happy, and you will remember them and cherish them and appreciate all the values and everything that they have shared with you. Now, when it comes to problems, again, if you are willing to have a good relationship with reality, that means that you're going to be willing to face difficult truths, difficult situations, even the fact that you as a human being you are able to do evil things, that in the wrong circumstances you can be mean, that you many times lie, that you many times act only on your own interest, that many times you are much more dangerous as a human being than what you think, but you just want to protect yourself. So you're a hypocrite many times because you're criticizing other people for things that you do. You are basically neglecting the reality. And the problem with that is that then there's a lot of things that don't go in your way, and that there's a lot of things that you cannot deal with. And that's because what Ashok was saying, if you're basing everything on a falsity, that is going to fall down if that is your pillar, right? So I would say that there are several important things to do that. I think writing, that's very important, as I was saying before, because it is impossible to deal with so many different thoughts at the same time. We have a very limited RAM capacity. And so as smart as we can be, we cannot deal with an entire book just by memory, right? You have to write it, right? You have to understand and go one by one over the difficulties, the problems, and also criticize yourself. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to do that because the only way forward is improving yourself, right? The only way forward is trying to understand the situation and try to improve it. See your shortcomings, see what you can do about them. A lot of people think that they are generous or they are good or they are bad. The reality is that we are so many things. We are incredibly complex creatures. We change every single day. We live so many different lives. And you are being generous to your wife, for example, and you may be selfish to your mother that may be wanting to be with you and you're not with her in that moment. You can be a wonderful father and an awful husband, and you can do a lot of different things that you think are okay because you're justified, but the reality is that they are incredibly immoral in many ways. So I think that if you are able to recognize that you're that you're flawed, that you make mistakes, that you're not perfect, but that you are also good and you're capable of doing incredible things, that you have already demonstrated to yourself what you have accomplished. I think someone mentioned that, I think it was Ashok as well, that you are proud of the things that you were able to deal with in the past, that things actually passed, as she was saying as well. It is important to recognize that even if we're not perfect, and if we will never be, aspiring to be the best we can be is the actual remedy for all the catastrophes in life. Because not only do we feel better when we're going in a direction that we value, but also we actually get to become proud of ourselves and become more capable. And the more capable we are, the more things go in our way. And the more able we are to see reality, the easier it is for us to deal with all the difficulties. If you don't see what's happening, you're blind and you're just going to be punched in the face constantly. And because you want to be a victim and be protected, and everything should be given to you because you deserve everything and everybody else is stupid except for you, then the problem is in that situation, you're never going to do what it takes to actually get up again and have the resilience that we're talking about. It depends a lot on your attitude, and it depends on accepting your reality and seeing what you can do to go forward.
Wow. So Carlos, I feel like it's Christmas morning. There's so many packages to unpack there. But I just want to I just kind of a blanket agreement here, but I want to say something else. And keep in mind that I'm a psychiatrist.
Yep.
But psychiatry also involves the whole self. And I'm going to actually plug something here, and that is nutrition and health and physical activity.
I love it.
And I work with a lot of people who come in my office and sit down, and I say, well, how much activity have you done this week? Have you gone for a walk? Have you gone for a stroll? Have you had a bike ride? Have you gone to the gym maybe? And what are you eating? What are you putting into your body? Because inside our body, we have a natural system called the immune system that fights everything that goes wrong with us. If we break a leg, it fixes that. If we get a tumor cell, it gets rid of that. Obviously not for all of us and your poor father with pancreatic issues. And if we get an infection, it fights that. Our body is naturally resilient because of this immune system. Our immune system is strengthened by sleep. So getting great rest is really important. Having a clear mind, meditation, as Rena will tell you, and also physical activity and good nutrition. And that includes omega-3 acids, of course, and all the other things that we need to do. Because your mind can't be better than your body. And your body can't be better than your mind. So why not amplify both of them? I'm going to just leave it there.
That's just beautifully said, Ashok. So thank you for that. I think and then it comes back to balance, right? It all needs to be in balance. Your mind and your body needs to be in balance, and your body as well, your physical health, your nutrition, your sleep. You need to make your body also resilient for the challenges that you face. So that's very, very important. Wahiba is giving another comment. Thank you so much, Wahiba, for your valuable comments. Really appreciate it. He says, amazing topic. Thank you to our panel. This is much needed as we need resilience to navigate through these uncharted waters as we're facing these globally. How does one who doesn't possess resilience start working on that area to build or learn to become resilient? Rena, would you like to comment on this question?
Wow, yeah, that's a wonderful question. So I think, from my perspective, it all comes down to your mind. It's really important, obviously, to have the sleep, to have the community, to have the nutrition. But I would say the key thing would be to have clarity of mind. So that self-care in the first instance is really, really important, because that's what will actually propel you to be able to then enable you to instill the good habits, to then have the right sleep, to consume the right nutrition, to have that social network. That's important. So I think, having your mind sorted out first would be the most critical thing from my perspective.
I just want to add that and I'm interested in Carlos's opinion on this. I actually think people do have resilience. They don't know it. And Carlos made an important point of the bubble that a lot of us live in some parts of the world. I've always lived in, my kids grew up here in Oakville, and it's a very protected place. We don't have any people in the streets who don't have shelter. We don't have beggars here. And so you can actually get this false sense that everything is provided for, and there isn't a kind of a struggle to have our basic needs met. And then I visit my relatives in India, and I see people who are just struggling with their basic needs. So as Carlos was saying, we can live in that bubble. But I actually truly think, and maybe this is something the pandemic can teach us, is that we do have resilience inside of us. We need to find it, awaken it, and then work on it.
Absolutely.
I think that's 100% true, Ashok, and also Carlos, Rena. Thank you so much for your valuable contributions. Really appreciate it. But I think that's so true. You never know how you will respond until you are confronted with a difficult situation. And you might think to yourself, I'm not able to conquer this. And then you find the strength within yourself and you are able to conquer it. And not only that, you might be able to help some people along the way as well. So I think many of us have hidden strengths within us. We have a comment coming in from Sigfrido Romeo. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. He says, indeed, and it is time to teach the new generation how to make our society better and better, not only more resilient, but also more open-minded. I think that's a very good point, Sigfrido. Thank you so much. And I agree. I think being open-minded can actually make you more resilient, because if you open your mind up to other cultures, other people, other habits, other circumstances, then you are less shaken, less surprised with whatever new comes your way. What do you think about this, Carlos?
Well, thank you very much. I absolutely agree with the fact that we are more resilient than we think. I think every single human being is capable of enduring incredibly tough conditions. And the fact that we are not trained and that we're not used to doing it, that doesn't mean that we cannot. Now, if we are training proactively and we're open-minded to new opportunities and to new tools and means in order for us to go somewhere better or to survive a difficult situation, then we're going to definitely have an easier path forward. But I would say that we all are incredibly resilient. In fact, if you think about the fact that a lot of people suffer incredible tragedies and still they don't want to suicide. And the fact that we do have some people that unfortunately want to take their lives. And I many times I do understand that the situation is unbearable. But just think about the amount of people that are living in absolute misery, in hell, with violence, with human rights violations, with without freedom, without any hope, and still they prefer to leave. So just think about the fact that we are so programmed to continue expanding our race, to continue living, to reproducing, right? We are so programmed for that even if we don't know, there's going to be something inside of us that automatically is going to push us forward, right? So that's one thing. Secondly, in order to be more resilient, I think that there's a clear need for direction and a vision for something that you value. And in order to actually do what it takes, everything has a sacrifice. Everything has a cost of opportunity, and everything that you want to achieve has a sacrifice that you're going to have to make. Now, the question is, how can we do a sacrifice for something that we actually value, right? And so we need to think, what is it important for us? What are we trying to pursue? So we can define a goal that allows us to have a direction. So as long as we're moving into, the right direction, or we feel that we are aligned with the person that we want to be and the place that we want to go, then we can withstand whatever difficulty. The problem is when you have nowhere to go because you don't know where to go and you don't appreciate anything and you just lack any interest for anything, right? Now, the question here is, what do we want as humans so we can find a direction as easy as possible, even in the worst circumstances? And I have developed a model that I think it's something pretty easy to understand for everybody, and that is pretty universal. What I believe is that every single person in the world needs three things: well-being, impact, and prosperity. What this means is that obviously health and mental health and the health of your family is incredibly important. Secondly, we are not only programmed to take care of our interests and survive and try to thrive and look for our own growth, but we are also trained, we have evolved to become as useful as possible to society, because otherwise society will not accept us. And if we don't have a society, we die. And even if it's for your own interest, being useful to others is useful. And that means that when you feel good and when you feel bad for something, is your body that is incredibly smart, and it's these very complex algorithms that we fail to understand that understand a situation and tell you should go here or there. And we have that wisdom that we just don't understand because it doesn't come into words. It normally comes into feelings and hunches and kind of like, this is wrong, this is okay. But if you look at that, you will realize that when you do things that are good for others, you feel good. When you do things that are good for you, you feel good. And when you don't, you know that something is wrong. So we need impact. And I've been pushing very hard. My entire work is focused on impact, in the sense that we try to maximize the capacity of individuals and organizations to help make the world better and to help provide positive contributions. And it is absolutely outstanding, because when any person realizes that it is possible to work on that, when they start working on that, they do not want to stop. It's just that no one told them, because as you were saying, in schools we're not teach many important things, and I come back to that in a second. So we need well-being, we need impact, but we also need prosperity. We need to make money to live in the world. If you're in a very difficult situation, you need money. And many times people are depressed because they have a lot of reasons to be depressed, because they don't have money, they don't feel they have opportunities, because they have problems with their couples, because they have an illness. And of course they are feeling bad, obviously they feel they're in hell, because they might as well be. The question is, what can we do about it? Well, let us try to focus on well-being, impact, and prosperity. Let us try to take care of our health, our sleeping habits, our nutrition, as you were saying perfectly well. But also let us think, where do we go? And where we want to go is always a place where we are having the life that we aspire to, at least as good as possible, and where we are providing value to others as well. Having a direction is absolutely fundamental. And I think that it is as easy as learning in school, if we allowed our kids to learn that psychology is very important. Not psychology as you have traumas because you wanted to have sex with your mother kind of psychology, but more every person has a mind, and every single individual in the world needs to understand how other minds work, so we can have better lives and take care of ourselves and take care of others. We are in a world where everything we do has to do with people, and yet we don't know anything about people. We don't learn anything about people, and we don't allow kids or individuals to learn about their own personal insecurities and how to build confidence and resilience and all these things that are skills that can be trained, but that are very natural indeed.
That's amazing, Carlos. And so, and just to point out that I don't think Sigmund Freud had all the answers when he was looking at his world. And I think just to look at this question by Wihiba, how do we start by finding resilience and awakening it? I think the answer to that is to do something that makes you uncomfortable.
Yep.
Get out of your comfort zone. And when I treat people who have anxiety, it's almost paradoxical. If they're afraid of spiders, we're going to get some spiders, and we're going to expose them to some spiders. Once you expose yourself to something that makes you uncomfortable, it becomes comfortable. And that builds resilience in doing that. And a lot of people are afraid of the things that they don't know. And when you actually do something about it, especially if it's a physical thing, it very quite naturally builds your capacity to know that your capacities are bigger, and to know that resilience to engage in those capacities is stronger. And so we start by actually getting out of our comfort zone.
Those are wise words, Ashok, and I think that's an advice I also often give to people. If they want to achieve things in life, I always tell them, do what makes you afraid. Go ahead and do it. And if you fail, that's okay. Try again. Just try again. But do the things that make you afraid, because there is where the most growth lies,
Right.
Behind the wall of fear is where the most growth lies. So I would like to end the show with some closing comments. Could you all give one tip to the audience how to become more resilient? I would like to start with Carlos, then Rina, and then Ashok. Carlos, what's your tip to the audience to become number one, to become more resilient?
Well, I think having the direction of improve yourself, improve the world. Have that always in mind. When you don't know where to go, when you don't know what to do, think about the idea of improving yourself. And that means learn new skills, show yourself that you're able to deal with problems, that you're able to deal with new situations, as Ashok was saying. Learn things, do things that make you feel good because you know that is the right path. Be valuable to other people. If you improve yourself and improve the world, you're going to feel capable of doing anything. And also remember that you are strong, that you're capable, that you have an incredible potential. And whatever you have done because in that moment you didn't know exactly how to deal with that. Maybe you're facing a crisis that has nothing to do with you. What is most important is that you understand the reality, what is the situation, forgive yourself for whatever, or understand the world for whatever situation, and just see, what do I do to go from where I am to a better place? What do I do that is in my control to be the person that I want to be, and try to improve my situation? How can I make money? How can I help others? How can I help myself?
So I'd like to say, everyone, my advice would be really nurture your mind, because that will awaken the resilience that Ashok talks about. Nurture your mind, and that will give you fulfillment to become a wonderful leader, to make a difference to the world and to add value, to help lead others. And that would be my wonderful advice to all of you. Ashok?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be extremely predictable. I'm going to say practice empathy, because empathy is a huge key to resilience. Once we sense that we're part of a greater system, a greater good, our connections to people, and as Carlos said, helping people is a powerful way to build resilience. When you empathize, if we all empathize with each other, our strength is so much more than one. And so I'm always encouraging people to practice empathy. It's made me more resilient, and it will make you more resilient as well.
Absolutely.
That is wonderfully said. Thank you all so much, Carlos, Rena, and Ashok. And I would encourage the audience, please go ahead and follow these amazing people. They're just wonderful, and we can all learn so much from them. And thank you to the audience for watching and for all your valuable questions and comments. And I'm really looking forward to having another show with you in 2 weeks. See you then. Bye.